Good evening, friends. I'm very happy to get this role of a moderator for this eminent panel discussion on the very hot topic of future of finance and changing role of CFOs. I believe that changing role of CFO and future of finance has remained a hot topic for quite some time. But after pandemic, it has somehow become a kind of buzzword in the finance circles, technology circles. So what is future of finance? I think finance is future and future is finance. So you can understand the importance of finance. And I believe and very firmly believe so that till the time business remains in this world and money remains a matter of motivation, finance professionals are always here to play their very important role. But how the role has changed in last couple of years, I think 5 dimensions I can specifically talk about. From a controller, it has become a business partner role. From a risk avoider, it has become a risk manager role. From a lover of brick and mortar or physical assets, it has become IP and digital assets kind of role. From I do all to I do only those things which others cannot do better. That's a major change. And the last but not least, projecting future based on past. That was the role in the yesteryears. Now it is anticipating future, working back and taking preventive or proactive actions as a part of the strategy. More important is how the role is going to unfold in times to come. If we take, let's say, 2030 as the destination, how then in next 9 years the role is going to evolve. Before I speak anything on that, I must say that every 6 months or every 12 months, what would be that 2030 finance role can itself undergo a change, because the limitation of our prudence, wisdom, foresight is surrounded by the circumstances and what we are able to see in the immediate future and not far long, the way technology is making major changes. So I certainly believe that technology is going to play a very, very important role. Many of the business models which are there today are likely to be revisited. Business practices will be revisited. The definition of customers themselves may undergo change. And because of that, many of the existing businesses may either become irrelevant or unprofitable. In the light of that, I would be very happy to learn from the learned views of great panel speakers that we have by our various questions and answers. So I have certain questions, and I am going to raise these questions to the eminent panel members here one by one. So let me start with my first question, which is on how is your role as a CFO today different than what it was before 10 years? All of you are having mostly experience of more than 2 decades, so you should be able to make this comparison. Let me start with Mr. Raghupati Mishra from Liberty Group.
Yeah, thank you, Nitin, and my dear esteemed panelists, fellow panelists, and thank you, Kamikaze Media, for giving this opportunity. So, Nitin, as you say, in the last 10 years or so, what has changed? If all of you recall the before and after hair oil advertisements, kind of, so let me try to get that kind of thing here, right? 10 years ago, we were closing our books in time. That was the expectation, and we were doing time so that there is no adverse remark from the auditors, whether it is statutory or internal. That was the key thing that we were doing, if you recall.
Yeah.
And panelists refer. Right. Then you managed to pay the taxes. Mark my words, managed to pay the taxes as far as possible with time. Right? In time. And you have the compliances at a manageable level. Right. That was the essence, kind of. And then you engage with the board to get the things done through the board. Kind of. Most of the things that were done, and other business planning, etc., what you were doing and all these things were there, cash management, etc., all these things that we routinely do. Now the time is that the accounting and all, mostly you do not apply your mind much, daily half an hour or so kind of, and it is a given. Now there is no kind of scope for non-compliance and all. The compliances and the regulatory mechanism has made the cost of non-compliance very high. Most of the people, whether knowingly or unknowingly, they have to comply with. So now it is that the transformation has happened. So you have to comply with everybody. So nothing to be managing kind of thing. 100% compliance. It's nothing. Okay. Then you see the planning kind of thing that you do, it is for future planning. You need to anticipate the future. In terms of the risk, how it is the risk, in terms of the kind of businesses that will come, in terms of the financials that will be required, future, how you will finance the thing, the entire business dynamics, that how it is going to change or it is evaluating and all, you need to focus on that and prepare a blueprint to how to manage it, how you will face them. That is what CFOs does right now. Then this thing of business partnering, you need to drive the business. You are not an accountant anymore. You don't have to write and taxes and all these things. You are the driver of the business. Along with the CEO, you both are co-pilots to drive the business. Maximizing profit, wealth, everything that you are, you have equal task of driving the business also. Then kind of how the IT and you employ IT and technology kind of, these are the things that you are doing. So this is the, within a minute's time, you could say, then and now task. Thank you.
Good, Raghupati. I think it's a good summation of how the role is getting changed. Richa, your views on that?
So Nitin, firstly, thanks for this exhaustive introduction. In a nutshell, you really laid out what's happening. There's so much of uncertainty that whatever we say today might just change simply in 6 months' time. So the biggest change I would say for a CFO or anyone working today is to be on a constant learning and education journey. What you're planning today might change tomorrow within a few months. To make it more specific, and if I just look back at what COVID did for us or what COVID taught us. When COVID came in, along with that, it brought in a huge amount of commodity inflation for various reasons. Even industries which were not affected by so much of volatility were affected. And in the good old days, say 15 years back, 20 years back, the large companies would have sat tight on a very stable working capital, right, and still performed. But when this happened, it were those companies who succeeded, who were able to very quickly change their cash position, very quickly get into long-term or mid-term hedges and manage that commodity risk. So how agile you are is very important today versus than it was yesterday. As competition has heated up, the large companies no longer have the kind of power with consumer which they had earlier. The smaller companies who are very nimble and who are out there acting much faster than you are. So speed has become more important. The kind of talent you recruited earlier to be successful, 10, 15 years back, I would have simply said, okay, to run this function or run my FP&A team, I not only want a chartered accountant, I also want an MBA, and that would have been very simple for me, and I would have gone with that. But today when I'm recruiting, I not only want a chartered accountant, I want a guy who's very, very strong with data analytics and can look at BI and can understand IT much better than I do to be able to guide me. So there's been a huge amount of change, right from how the environment is, to the kind of talent I need, and even to the kind of working capital solutions I need. Along with that, of course, like I said, we need to continue to stay very nimble and light.
Very good. I think this talent point is very important. Richa, you brought yesterday on another program, I was there and I heard somebody saying that in Bajaj Finserv, they have about 250 engineers taken more to work on technology, solutions, information requirement, dashboards, predictive analysis, onwards many things. Good. Chetan, your views on this point? How the role has changed?
Yeah, things have changed a lot. Like Mr. Raghupati Mishra said very clearly that, 10 years or maybe 15 years back, it was very easy to, sit with a trial balance and say, my work is done, The balance sheet is out, the taxes have been paid, the IT returns have been filed, and that's wow, I can go out for a drink and, enjoy life. But things have changed a lot. The scenarios have become very competitive. You have to keep your eyes and ears open at every time. Some of the things that are most important where we're looking at high volumes, like an industry like us, where media and entertainment, where there is continuous churn of transactions, laying down processes and systems and controls, where the idiot proofing is needed, because you can't have chartered accountants for every function and even chartered accountants are not foolproof. So there is they're prone to make mistakes in the kind of pressures that we work. So having said that, it's the number one task for a chartered accountant today or a CFO today is to ensure that there are processes that are set and fine-tuned as we move ahead with our businesses, and they are very not very rigid, but not a little bit of dynamic, and it moves with the scenario. The other thing is, earlier it was very you wanted to start some business, you started from the the start, but today the world has changed. There are a lot of M&A opportunities that everybody looks at. It's easier to buy something. I wouldn't say easier, but it's the option is available to buy a smaller unit, merge it into your unit, and so the CFO's role. I mean, a CFO does 2 or 3 acquisitions at least in a year, looks at least 12 or 15 opportunities along with his CEO. And which means 25 to 30% of your time is spent in due diligence and with paperwork and all of that. So that's an evolving thing. 10 years, 15 years back, nobody thought about acquisitions as we look at it today. Risk management. I mean, things are so vulnerable. Things are so vulnerable that we were all hoping that with the vaccine we are safe. But there's a new oh God, Omicron that's now hovering around our heads like a sword, and we don't really know whether we're going to go into a lockdown. Hopefully not. Whether there's going to be uncertainty. There's still, Europe is already showing signs that the number of COVID-19 cases are going up, and now COVID-19 has started in 19, and even in 22 it's nowhere to be going. So a lot of things uncertain. We live in a very uncertain world today. That's what I wanted to say.
Jitendra, your views on that?
Hey, hi guys. I think I agree with most of what has been said till now. So my company typically is more into InsurTech. The biggest change that I see from maybe 10 years back in a CFO role is earlier we were accountants. Now we are business partners. So, from a sea change, I don't think we have been looked upon as accountants anymore. I think now, as compared to what I used to do 10 years back, now accounting will be like 10 to 15% of my job. So especially in a tech world and a technology kind of company that I am into, technology is expected. I mean, now we are not thinking how are you going to do accounting. It's right from start to end, how do we make customers' lives easy when it comes to payouts, when it comes to digital transactions, when it comes to products being served on a digital platform. Those are the kind of things we are working on, and that's a huge change. And then as we earlier heard people saying, it's now in every business decisions, the CFO role is expected to comment on the strategy, where every decision would come to maybe a P&L effect or a cost effect. So quite a lot of strategic discussions now is not done without the CFO's interference. So that's a big change. I think technology, I think it's a primary driver where I think given COVID and given a lot of changes today, customers are being served at a platter, and right from the entire customer value chain is given such a lot of importance. That's where the CFO is coming and taking a lot of control in terms of analyzing data, predictive analysis, etc. And at the same time, making sure customer gets what it's required. So one is technology and the other is strategy. These are the two roles where it's become very, very imperative and important for the CFOs to chip in and give their input. So now you're expected to know technology, you're expected to know the business pretty well. And of course, the rest of the things like accounting, tax, and financial management, etc., remain, your key. But you have to be prepared. So, just for example, my team is the management reporting team, which is completely technology driven. So we run around 200 reports on a daily basis on an automated fashion, which goes to sales, etc. And we do analytics based on that. So plenty of things to change. And I think in years to come, I think technology will be around 50-60% of our jobs, surely.
Very good. And since Rajat comes from a Barista coffee, I may, in a lighter manner, ask Rajat, what is brewing in CFO's role?
Thanks, Nitin, and thanks all the panelists for a insightful starting session. Though most of the points have already been kind of covered by the fellow panelists, but the way I want to kind of put it through is that, see, when I started my career around 15 years back, the balance sheet, the role of a finance guy was to kind of create balance sheets. But today, I would say, if I were to just to kind of put it in a glorified way, 15 years from then to today, it's about making a balance sheet more marketable. Because the way the dynamism is and the way the revenue opportunities are here, every day there is a bit of investor sitting on your head, looking at your balance sheets and kind of deep diving on various aspects around how you kind of reported numbers. It's not about just creating balance sheet, it's about creating a balance sheet which has a certain level of marketable value. And the way I see today the role in terms of the way I handle, because I also kind of handle a business role apart from being handling the finance function, we have become a catalyst to grow. It's not only a support function anymore. It's about enabling and creating a sustainable value for the enterprise, which is any which way is a very in a very changing dynamic, because the way the last 2 years have been for retail, I've been part of it. We have seen how dynamic the business scenarios were. Seeing the businesses starting again from zero. So it kind of brought COVID brought all the businesses pretty much in retail to a standalone zero. So right sizing some of those models, taking those decisions much faster, and the kind of data sets which we have today and the kind of data mining we do at our end today is something which the CEOs or the business leaders in the various other functions look forward for our inputs to enable their decision making. So the role has gradually changed. They have also understood that a finance function is just not a data center. It's about meaningful data crunching, giving them insights which help them take decisions, which create a more sustainable enterprise.
And we, as finance people, obviously believe that we have a very important role to play, and finance makes a lot of sense for business. But as a finance leader, how do you bring this message home to non-finance people? Let me start with Raghupati again in that order. So how do you make finance role felt by non-finance people?
Yeah, actually, day in and day out, this is the exercise we do. Most of the time, we need to have other CXOs like marketing, sales, operations, all these people, and their staff and their team. They make this understand. I personally have 4 points that I make in most of the things in different ways and different this thing. But 4 basic things I say. That let's understand that the company is here to earn profit and maximize wealth. But the objective of the company is that we are not a charitable organization. कोई धर्मशाला, वृद्धाश्रम, कन्याश्रम type चीज नहीं है. We are here to make profit.
Yes.
Correct? That's number 1. For all your need, whatever you do, you need finance. That's the basic need. This is point number 2. Point number 3, as to take it further, that we are in the business of making profit. Then every money that we are spending should generate more money to the company. This is the edifice on which the business stands. In other words, to tell them very straightforward, the 4th point is that any product, market, customer intervention has to be done with a side that we are getting something in return which is much more than the expenses. It may be tangible, it may not be tangible at the right time. The intangible also bring the tangible results at a later stage, like brand building and goodwill and all the things, right? So
Right.
these are the 4 points I make them. Thank you.
Good, Somesan. Richa, anything you would like to throw your light on this topic?
So very well said by Raghupati that, at the end of it, a business is there for, to make profit. And, wherever I've worked in any large MNC or even an Indian company, we always talk about business, financial, and social sustainability, right? That all three of them have to coexist. And the three of them coexist only when whatever you are doing translates into financial profitability, right? So step one is really to educate your employees and communicate over and over again why making money is important to the sales team, especially because sales is the hardest job. And I'll not undermine by saying that, they like to dilute the margins. Sometimes they're faced in very conflicting situations where to place an extra case of the product, they have to negotiate very hard and give that money. But really educating them that whatever you deliver has to come at a profit and has to come at a quality growth. The whole concept of incremental profitability, right? Every year you have to deliver something incremental to the shareholder. So all this comes via education, and then to really translate that education into reality, it also has to fit in with the performance metrics. It's easy to say that, okay, we want sales to deliver profitability, but at the end of it, if you're going to measure them only on sales, then profit will always take a back seat. So as core management team, somewhere you have to ensure the sales is also your partner when it comes to gross margins, when it comes to earnings, when it comes to working capital management. If you leave them loose, then of course they're going to use credit beyond a reasonable level to push that incremental sale. So marrying these two is very important. And thirdly, I will say, in order to make all this true, finance has to be on the top when it comes to data and dashboarding. Bring visibility into what's happening at each and every level, whether it be sales, whether it be your factories and production. Without a sharp vigil, it's very difficult to ensure in such a volatile environment that every month we are generating the right kind of profit that we need to. Otherwise, we'll always be...
Right. Showing the mirror to the business.
Right.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's always a catch-up game that, the last quarter we haven't made money, now what to do? So unless it has to be as real time as possible.
Yeah, and Rajat, for different businesses or different functions, you need to have different mirrors also.
Yes.
And lastly, I'll just wrap up by saying that somewhere incentives also have to be tied into your financial metrics. While you hold the sword, also bring in the carrot that rewards employees a little more on profitability.
Agreed. Chetan, your views on this? Anything different or additional you would like to point out here?
I come from a very different industry, and this industry bears the impact of producers of products which are FMCG or consumer durables or automobiles or whatever. And in the lockdown, when the demand for that fell, the first cut was on advertising. Yeah, and our clients which were advertising every month, some of them in the category which let's say air conditioning, who actually advertise in March, April, May, and the first lockdown actually meant that they didn't advertise at all. So the entire impact of that is on our company, and that's when we really, the non-business finance people, understood what is it that when our billings drop, when our revenues drop, what is the impact. And that's when things like cost considerations and the concept of frugality came in. So that's when we very closely understood, everyone understood that the moment we look at each venture that we're doing with the thin microscope of profitability, revenue that is being generated, and look at costs very closely. So that's something that is needed at every function, whether it is a finance person or a non-finance person. And like Richa rightly said, incentivizing people on profitability really helps the organization, because that's when if we are making 100 rupees and there's 10 to 15 rupees that's going to the manager, he's going to be looking at his profitability much more closely and trying to improve it. The other aspect that I really, in our industry, because, we may look at a 3,000 or a 5,000 crore billing, but, end of the day, we work on a 2-3% wafer margin. So for us, it's so very important to collect, and we have the mantra of money in the bank is revenue. So if money is not collected, it's in thin air, and unless it's in the bank, it's not revenue. So we have this very, very, very closely monitoring our debtor situation, and if we've not collected anything for a long time, we immediately look at provisioning and all of that. So that's why we, and the moment I provision, it impacts the business manager. So that is the stick that we use, other than the carrot that we use of incentivizing them. So I think money in the bank is the most important for the next 2-3 years going forward.
Very nice. Jitendra, your views on this?
Yeah, I agree with Chetan there. I think money in the bank is kind of the best thing. Fortunately, in our business, we have the money in the bank right in front. I mean, whenever we take a car insurance, first we take the money in the bank, and to everybody's maybe a little bit of a shock, we make money on investment income more than sometimes a risk, because typically anybody takes any insurance, you have to pay the money up front, and by the time you claim, it could be a few months away. Definitely. So, of course, cash flows and profitability is today is playing a very, very vital role. And as Richa also mentioned, dashboarding, data, all that kind of things is playing a huge role today. And of course, risk and giving COVID and everything. So our industry giving insurance and everything. So this first quarter was very challenging with the COVID numbers going up and we taking a hit on health insurance. So how to manage your P&L given those kind of unforeseen events, and still managing your capital inflows at the same time, profitability becomes an even bigger challenge as such. So, and with the technology in the forefront, I think these are models that we bring. These are matrices that we have to build to ensure that we are on the top of the game. So we know how the year is going to end, and in case course corrections need to happen right up front, instead of giving the signal to the board in the last moment saying, okay, hey, look, we'll be 20% off our numbers. So forecasting again is very important. Knowing the business is very important. At the same time, your levers of the business is very important. So you need to have your 4 to 5 matrices that you have as a business. You have to hold that, whether it could be productivity, it could be cost, it could be profit margins, or it could be basic cash flows. You need to have that on the top of your sleeve and do as much as possible. At times, you need to be a little more innovative or in managing your numbers, figuring out ways you can get profits coming on some different channels, push it up to the sales and tell them, hey, you've not done great in the first quarter in terms of the products that we are selling. Maybe we can move that in the second quarter to get a temporary benefit or a for the year benefit. So it's an out and out as a change. As I said, every bit of it is like 10-15% of your KPI right now. So maybe, of course, the traditional 15-20% remains accounting, audit, taxation, etc., controls, etc. But now with going forward, technology, strategy, P&L management, maybe acquisitions, partnering with sales in acquiring clients, and maybe for us, maybe reinsuring, maybe product category is something that is taking a forefront. At the same time, at times we being a technology kind of brand, maybe we also contribute in how the brand needs to move. So as an out and out, I think it's more partnering with business rather than being on the back end and just doing audit and accounting.
Good. I think you talked about the enlarged scope of CFOs and what they do with the business and functional heads. Rajat, your views on this particular point as to how do you make CFO's role felt by non-finance people also?
The way I would like to put in the current world, and considering that I also kind of wear a bit of business hat and kind of applies to me, our agenda is very clear, and the way when I chat up to the other teams as well, that it's all about revenue rationalization in the current scenario and maximization, because maximization is something in the long run is not very sustainable. You need to look at rationalizing revenue. You need to look at creating good revenues, which kind of yield a certain level of bottom line. And that's where when you talk to the sales function or some of the marketing functions, they are driven by maximizing revenue. So that is one culture change which pandemic in any which ways to a larger extent has been responsible for us to learn that we need to create good revenues. And similar things applies to the cost, where we need to rationalize costs rather than reduce costs, because that's something which is in the long run again kind of makes your enterprise sustainable. When I kind of started and took this role, kind of taking a business role, the first thing which when I started kind of rationalizing P&Ls with the team, the sales team is more focused on how the sales and the guest experience and ops excellence. But when you start kind of asking them the relevant questions of the P&L, that's where there is a lot of hiccups happening. But that's where I think that they've also understood in a certain way that how P&Ls are important. Every money spent has to have a certain level of ROIK. And that's where I think that's the message is very clear to all the teams and all the members who are kind of listening, that it's all about looking at creating a value by rationalizing and creating opportunities which have an underlying value in itself.
Thank you, Rajat. I think you all also touched upon this point of dashboards, technology use, and things related to that. So while automation and digital are talked about as hot topics for quite some time now, can you, based on your experience, Raghupati, tell something concrete into how you experienced the power of automation and digital in your experience in your organization?
See, what happens is that previously, normally what we were doing the finance team, where most of the things were kind of tedious and manual kind of thing. That we have now automated, all the recording kind of thing now. Right. So it has freed the people of the tedious and manual task of entries and all the things, and getting data churning, and then this, right, Excel sheets and all these things are now not used. There are softwares which can churn the data, get you the desired report in a desired way at the desired intervals. Right. So that collating the data and then getting the desired reports in quite a few manners, interventions and all, it was very time consuming and tedious. So now the team are working smartly. They have time for getting the analytics part more.
Okay.
And morely they are bringing in innovation themselves. They have the time for applying their mind also. So they are bringing in innovation also. So that now you are adding value to the business.
Specific, sorry to interrupt you, any specific, function or area where you can talk of any specific technology or automation use which is now making a difference?
No, mostly in data churning, what kind of steel we are producing, what kind of what are the inputs that we are doing in that, and what is the ideal scenario for that, and if that is not in the ideal scenario, why the deviations are there, and like steel making with the different kind of products and all have different routes. So we're utilizing different routes to produce the same thing, like induction furnace or induction arc furnace and all, and that way, that data that we are analyzing, and then we are suggesting to the operations to do in this way, so that because in steel industry, the raw material prices and the sale prices both are quite dynamic in nature. Every day they change, right? So we were doing some processes 3 months ago through one route. Is not relevant right now because that has become costly and there are cheaper way available.
Interesting.
So that, we are doing that. We are now nimble footed in that sense that we are seeing all the processes we are making ready and seeing every month which route we should operate.
Good. Richa, your experience in terms of how automation or digital technology is making a difference to your organization?
Sure. So Nitin, a couple of points. One, of course, there's back end where, artificial intelligence or robotics has come in to take care of accounting. But if I talk more on the business side and the business partnering side, there are various things that have happened, which has helped finance add further value by working closely to business. So if I talk about sales automation,
Okay.
Now you can pretty much in the FMCG industry track each and every salesman on the field, where the salesman is moving, how many bill cuts are happening, how much incentive is he giving to a particular retailer against what kind of sale. So if you have a sales finance team that's very well integrated with this, they can actually do very good ROI dashboarding and help or handhold the sales team in saying that maybe these are your outlets where sales is not growing, relook at how much you're spending. On the other hand, if I go towards, say, supply chain, right, we have our CFAs and our distributors place orders to the CFAs. Now we deal in chocolates. Chocolates have a very high logistics cost because of the cold chain that is needed. So it's very important for us that each truck that moves in our optimal truckload. Now, with technology coming into play, there is very quick and real-time data sharing that, okay, so much of order has been placed. The truckload is now 75%. If we get 2 or 3 more orders, we'll be able to dispatch at a good cost. So the sales team is also provoked that, boss, it's in your hand to ensure a lower cost now and get the orders quickly so that we can deliver on time. So it's basically that kind of integration of finance with real points of business that's really adding value beyond the accounting aspect.
Very interesting. Chetan, your experience, you come from a different world of advertisement. So how technology automation are making their presence felt?
For
Can I
me,
just say one thing? When it
Yes.
comes to advertising, that's my biggest fear. You know, sometimes it gets so difficult to read the ROI of my advertising. I would really love to hear from him.
yeah. So I'll try to answer Richa's question first, because ROI from advertising has two aspects. What's it doing for my brand? I mean, I'm not a brand guru, but what's it doing for my brand? So that's sustainability of the brand, and the second is sales. So is it driving my sales growth? So those are two aspects, and while sales growth is the immediate thing that comes up, and that's very apparent. Last quarter I did a campaign which was a hit, and post campaign and prior to the campaign, the sales impact can be easily seen. And the other aspect is the brand building. So sustainability of your brand in the market is important. So that's what, at least little bit of stuff that I've learned in 20 years in advertising, being in finance function in advertising.
So now, Richa, you calculate ROI based on this.
Yeah. The other aspect of being in advertising and media, and especially media, where loads of money runs through our system, because we bill clients and then we collect and then we pay the media companies, whether it is channels, whether it is digital publishers like Google and Facebook, and obviously the Times of India and the Hindustan Times of the world. So it's very important for us to bill right, to collect on time, and to make those accurate payments out. So in the olden days, those fat bills came to us with advertisement voucher copies, and each one checked it. So we had hundreds of people checking those bills, and ensuring whether it is 7 centimeter by 6 centimeter or no in a print bill. All of that is now got automated. So we even whether a spot was aired or by a channel is getting automated. So if it is automatically monitored, it gets billed automatically, and when the monies come in, it gets paid automatically. So those kind of things. When in our industry we have got very specific that we can't sit on client money. If we've collected client money, we have to pay within the next 2-3 days to our publisher friends. So and we are subject to audits from clients, because the money is so huge that clients will audit us at the end of the year to ensure that we are not earning money on their money. So
you can't have treasury income out of their clients' money.
Absolutely. And we've got very, very esteemed clients who pay on due date, like clockwork. So if a client pays, let's say client X has paid on 25th of the month, if that money has come, I know it's 25th today. There are some clients which are large FMCGs are like that. Without taking names, because I don't want to sound biased. The second thing that is helping me a lot about this is, I've got in my system, I've got 2 very important reports. One is, collected and not paid. And there's another report which says paid but not collected, because the media, which is the publishers, the Indian Newspaper Society, whether you collect or don't collect, if you have to safeguard your accreditation, you have to pay on the due date. So there's another report that I run, which is, paid but not collected. And that's the biggest strain that I have on the system, because it runs into crores, and that's my money, which is getting pumped on behalf of my client. So that's my biggest thing. With these two automated reports help us a lot. The other thing is, on data insights that come out of by automation, which are used to improve the process going forward. And, it throws up a lot of information in terms of what do we need to do to be, not to be error prone. So that's the thing. So those are some of the things, and, it helps us to fine tune on the way forward and in terms of our processes, systems. Those are the things.
Very interesting. Jitendra, your views?
Well, I mean, most of the things, many things which is from analytics, from reportings, from automations are getting covered. I think two important things from an insurance industry standpoint has happened after automation is one is the end-to-end AP integration between companies. That's huge today, because earlier, if you look at insurance, somebody used to come with a form. You sign it, take a check, go, and that forms get deposited. Somebody does a data entry. That's all gone out of the window today. What happens typically is for example, a policy bazaar will issue. You go buy a policy online. It gives you an immediate policy, and that end-to-end integration. The data flows from that company, could be a corporate agent, etc., into my company, and a policy gets issued within a day. So that's super. That's seamless today. Never thought of that a 7-day turnaround time will take minutes today. So that's huge for a customer. So he doesn't have to fill up a form. He doesn't have to give you a check. It's instantaneous. You go online, pay something, pay your policy premium, and you get a policy immediately. So that's one big change that, from a customer perspective, that entire journey is taken out. Second, more importantly, of course, from a finance side, there's a lot of automations going on in the back end. But now we are moving one step ahead, where we bring products using this technology. Now, for example, earlier unheard was today we have in Edelweiss a app-based policy, where you just download an app and that becomes your policy. If you want to take a car insurance for a year, earlier you have to no choice. Today, what you do is sit in your car and just on that app, and you have yourself covered for only the days you drive. So if you don't use a car on a weekend, you don't. So now you get to products using technology. We all know how technology is helping on the back end. But now I'm coming to a step ahead, saying products which is driven with technology. You build products which are demand based, which is customer based, which will not require any individual doing any data entry, any malware intervention, and then the customer has a mobile in his hand and can do any wonders with that magic box in his hand. Similarly, we are working on a lot on trying to make claims seamless. So, where we use analytics and we use intelligence to automate the claims experience as well. So you have a claim, you just go online and through the entire modeling that we have at the back end, you can settle claims within minutes again. So it's wonderful. I think the next 10 years could be revolutionizing the entire industries in all segments. And I think it's great for us finance people, because we have an opportunity to go into different directions, learn new technology, and move ahead. I think that's going to be the next 10 years. So any finance professional hearing this, I think, get your hands into technology, because your finance knowledge is not going to be enough unless you have a hands-on experience in technology.
Yeah, you need to be financial technologist now.
Absolutely.
Rajat, any other dimensions you would like to bring on this topic?
I would like to just share that technology today is which is not an option today. It's a mandatory thing which everybody has to adopt in the current scenario. Right. But the way I would like to put it is that if I were to look at from a consumer engagement, the way in the last 2 years when the pandemic happened, nobody was prepared really kind of look at taking digital orders. There was a lot of need where people were not interacting with each other. When they were coming to our retail stores, they didn't want to engage. The engagement was in the zone that people wanted to be in the disengaged zone when they are coming, and they want to be on their own while they were even ordering. So it led to a digital ordering ecosystem where most of the brands, and we were one of the earlier brands to kind of adopt. Now most of the brands have already adopted. There were a lot of digital technology platforms which came in, which helped us to look at digital ordering as one of the solutions, where there was a QR code based ordering. So that was something, again, with technology innovation, where the digital ecosystem of ordering was speaking to our POS system, and there was a complete integration on a back end at a front end level, and the consumer journey was made seamless. So that was one new innovation which kind of came into a retail concept to look at how do we kind of digitalize order. The way it kind of helped us in the last 2 years is, one is that we were able to rationalize some of the manpower cost, where the guy who was kind of seeking the orders, we can avoid that guy. We just needed guys who can make the orders and serve the orders, because pretty much the order taking was taken care by the digital economy. So some of these changes kind of came in the last 2 years, which were not heard of, which we thought that this something is a very weird kind of an ecosystem to kind of even talk about, because when you go to a restaurant or you go to a coffee shop, it's about engagement. You want to interact, you want to understand, and you want to kind of talk about the product. But that ecosystem in the last 2 years changed completely. And pretty much everybody now, so my 40% of the business today has become digital. One, that is kind of helping us to kind of address the manpower rationalization bit. And also the second is that it helps me to kind of reduce any kind of a leakage opportunity, which may happen in a cash kind of a scenario.
Certainly, absolutely, Rajat. Now, in order to respect the time, I would be skipping one question and then merging some other questions to make it more interesting. So, what would be the finance function of 2030 in terms of growth potential, in terms of business challenges, business sustainability, or cyber risk, or talent requirement, or any other angle, including digital technology use? So let me again start with Raghupati Mishra. 2030. Currently, I think you are sitting in a place which, at least the background shows that you are somewhere in Kerala. I don't know where you are. Maybe that's a part of technology now.
That's when
I believe that sometimes, Raghupati, the simulation will come that you are sitting in office only, but you are in Paris, or you are in New York, or you are in London. All those things should be made possible.
Correct.
Okay.
So this is actually when I last visited Goa. So see, 2030, I think you started with this topic that what will be in 2030 will change in the next 6 months or 1 year, right?
Yeah.
So I fully agree with that. Still, I am venturing out. It's a risky proposition. But mostly what will happen is that automations for all the transactions, routine transactions that we are doing, the accounting part of it mostly will be automated. There will be no accountant required. One guy who is there, which compliance related matters like accounting standards, or as per requirements of GST or income tax and all, 2-3 person you require in a let's say kind of 5,000 crore industry kind of, they will manage it through all the softwares, right? You don't have a 40 members team kind of there. Most of the things will be kind of done through analytics, and the main use is the finance function to get the data, what the data they have got from these data analytics, to get that to other departments and the management to agree to make changes. This is the most important thing, because data analytics has given you certain data. You have thought through it, and then according to your businesses, the past, what the future is coming, you are anticipating the future and what will be the best course of action, then you are suggesting that. Marketing that idea internally is the biggest challenge we all face, CFOs, right? And as right now, previously we were not driving businesses. Now that we are driving businesses, and we have that tremendous skill sets of analyzing the past and foreseeing the future through different techniques, which mostly other functions do not have at that level. Then it is our duty and it is our responsibility also to get it across to all the departments and agree on that. So the internal selling of the ideas and the future course of action to be changed according to the changes that we are making, that's the important thing finance function will be making. And
Very,
how
very
the value creation we are doing by this, how the organization making value creation and all. Second thing is that the kind of disruption that is happening, how to anticipate those disruptions, and the CFO should have the ability to navigate the organization through the this disruption, and also look towards opportunities, how he can use that to maximize the profit for his organization. So this is an enormous task. It's easier said than done, but that is the kind of thing, that is the kind of skill set that organizations will look from CFO. Because I don't foresee any other CXO with that kind of skill set that we have to face disruptions and navigate the organization through the disruption.
So opportunity of making something even in adversity should not be lost.
So that's never waste in a
correct.
You say no disruption. That is what is told, right?
Yeah, Richa, your views on this? Where are we
to
going to be in 2030?
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short. Firstly, all of us definitely need to go back to school to learn quite a few things about technology and whatever is happening around us. In absence of that, in the short term, hire right talent, upgrade your talent pool with the right skills, which are more IT savvy and digitally savvy. Working more in a FMCG environment, definitely for me, I do want to not only learn, but also leverage more technology in the space of media. Media has now gone beyond just television. There are multiple platforms. So how do we make sure we get the best return and we capture the right data everywhere? Secondly, so far banking systems typically in FMCG had been front facing. Looking at customer solutions, it's probably time where I tap into connecting my treasury teams more closely with my procurement teams to leverage blockchain, to leverage new banking solutions and reduce transactional costs, bring speed, minimize my working capital. Now, looking 10 years ahead, I do know that I will be sitting in a very, very different business environment. India being a traditional trade market where 70-80% market was small shops is rapidly changing. From B2C, it might move to B2B to C, for example, JioMart, for example, Amazon, the way they are disrupting their retail space, I will definitely need to recreate my sales team, my business model. A lot of uncertainties and a lot of things to do. So CFOs will not have a dull moment is all I can say.
Yeah, very, very interesting time, exciting time, challenging time, but still fascinating.
Yeah.
Great. Chetan, your views on this?
Yeah, first and foremost, I feel bad that you changed the exam paper.
That's uncertainty. CFOs,
Yeah, exactly.
But lighter tone, somebody said that CAs do something. So on a lighter tone, I'm saying that when people talk that CAs don't understand certain things, so CAs don't do that. I said no, I'm a MBA from IIM, and sometimes people say that MBAs don't understand finance. Then I say no, I'm chartered accountant.
So the important aspect is how quickly all of us could change and adapt to this, and that's what is needed in the future in 2030, which will be the core. The adaptability to the situation is what is going to be expected from finance. So if the business scenario changes, how well are you going to adapt and to the new business scenario, change your cost dynamics, change your revenue modeling and all that, and move ahead. The other thing is some of the basics, like Raghupati Mishra clearly narrated, is that some of the basics will be taken care of by technology. Like, you don't have to enter your purchase voucher, purchase bill, and then generate a sale bill. It'll all be automatic. Just like today we have our GST system of 2A and 3B. Everything is getting automated there, and you're paying only, you're taking credit only for what's appearing in your 2A. So, technology is going to drive all of this. Your purchase, your sales, your vouchers, everything is going to be driven by technology, and authorizations will probably what is needed. So a lot of the people who are, today doing mundane jobs, like, entering data into systems and all that, unless they upskill, they're not going to be having jobs. So that's the fear that I carry, because there are a lot of 60 to 70% of each teams are happy doing what they're doing and they don't upskill. So upskilling, for whether it is chartered accountants, whether it is MBA finance from premier institutes, I think continuing the professional education and upskilling yourself with the changing times is important. The third and the fourth most important thing is that minds will be minding or will be taking care of business. So some of the basic mundane stuff will be taken care of by technology. Artificial intelligence will do some of the thinking, but most of the thinking will have to be done by professionals like us, where we make the change we show change in the way the organization moves ahead. And I think that's in 2030 going to be the key task for every CFO.
Great. Jitendra, your view on this?
I'll keep it really short.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, like others are saying, I think most of automation is going to take a lot of the current operational work. So I think I will just read it saying there will be specialists and there will be generalists. So I think the generalist jobs will all go away. I mean, and it will reduce the generalists. So end to end, there will be no accountant sitting and doing data entry for sure. End to end, they'll be taken up, and then you'll be left with specialists who will be actually required to test, to financials, to give advice. So that's going to be 2030. So you got to be somebody who's really intelligent, have a few short team, and the rest of the basic jobs will be taken up by technology.
Good. Rajat, any new dimensions you want to add?
A very small one-liner, I would say, that the way I see finance function in 2030 would be more driven towards deeper insights to problem resolutions than kind of being a data entry operator. It would be largely focused around kind of creating solutions to the problems around the business which we do. So it won't be the mundane jobs which we have done in the last 10 years, which has now further any which way is kind of curtailed down. We are spending more of quality time around analytics. And the way I see, most of the finance team would be driven towards creating opportunities in terms of problem solving than looking at spending times in the basic back-end functions.
Very good. So I think what I've learned from this panel discussion is that most programmable, routine, transaction related tasks which can all be automated or done by technology would be done as such, and there will not be or hardly any need of finance people to carry out them. Maybe they only will supervise that they are done in time and appropriately. A lot of outsourcing may take place, all kinds of general tasks, because aggregation and technology can, significantly reduce the cost, and therefore, wherever things can be outsourced, people will like to go for outsourcing. I mean, IT outsourcing is taking place, accounts outsourcing also taking place, HR, many tasks are also getting outsourced. So I think this trend would continue. Looking at the technology and its changing dimensions, depth, variants, etc. I think what Richa mentioned, Raghupati, many of you mentioned, the need of constant, education, going back to school, sharpening our skills, especially technology, understanding new things coming, including blockchain, other things, how they can play a role. I think that would be very important. And talent management and getting the new talents which can really, take this to the next leap in a much faster manner, I think would be the need of the hour.
The existing manpower could be trained. I think we don't have
certainly.
Like Richa
it's going to be blend. I think there will be new talents also, and there will be
so you don't have to hire new people or having a particular skill set kind of. If the people has the attitude, they can learn it. You can invest with them, the funding could be, and the existing manpower could learn that. So that L&D process has to be a continuous one.
Absolutely. But I believe at the end that, no matter how technology changes, what kind of, hundreds and 200s of database dashboards you may have every day, the judgment part would still remain with human minds. And because of that, while there will be predictive and prescriptive analysis, even the prescriptive analysis, somebody has to accept that whether you want to go with that or you have a different view based on your sixth sense or judgment.
Vinip, you have a very sound this thing. It sometimes it requires certain interpersonal skills and behavioral skills to get it across within the management.
Absolutely.
So that's what the CFO has to do, that how to get the new ideas adopted.
Good. So let me, Raghupati, then start. I now requesting all of you to give just one line message to the participants. Let me again start, Raghupati, with you. One line message to finance community.
No, I think I have given all the messages.
Okay, Richa. Richa, you on mute.
Sorry, it's a great time to be agile and be ready for all kind of disruptions by upscaling and upskilling yourself. So all the best, and all the best to ourselves as well.
Thank you, Chetan.
Upskilling and continuous professional development, and be in touch with the latest developments that are happening in the world, whether it is with taxation or whether it is with what's happening in Europe, what's happening in the other countries, and keeping a close eye to the future.
Jitendra?
I would say be a fintechy. Finance professional having technology as a upskilling thing. So fintech is the new word.
Good. Rajat?
Being open to learning and being more agile towards what's changing is I think, the buzzword for the next 10 years.
I think that's a great thing. Just for your information, when I switched over from textiles, working for textile for almost 23 years, and then in pharma, I thought that I need to acquire some knowledge of pharma also, being a non-technical person. So I did MBA in pharma management course at the age of 53 years. Wow. And I keep learning. So we have to set the examples in the organization. In fact, I conduct finance for non-finance workshops, 2 full days workshop for all senior non-finance people. That's the way I'm trying to understand that they also need to look at, why finance is doing certain things the way they are doing, why they, have certain questions, why they need certain information for certain decision making. So I think it's a two-way process, making, them also understand why finance is doing what they are doing. Thank you. It was wonderful, interacting with you people. And I think as a panel, we have exchanged good ideas for the cross learning. And thank you all. Bhavna.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you, everyone. Let's stay connected.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
So, ladies and gentlemen, an incredible panel right there, moderated by Nitin. And it is now time to move on to our final segment. Firstly, I'd like to thank all our eminent speakers and our partner, Clear. And with this, it brings us to the end of the 4th edition of CFO Executive Leadership Summit 2021 in association with Clear. We hope you had an enriching time listening to our speakers and also networking during the break with all our attendees. Well, with this, we're going to be beginning shortly the Financial Leadership Awards just in a while. Well, we look forward to your presence in applauding the achievements of those whose efforts deserve recognition.